How's it going, guys? This is Jeff Benjamin with 9 to 5 Toys. A little something different here. We are looking at the new SmallHD Focus OLED, which is, the upgraded version of the SmallHD Focus. It includes that OLED display, which is the big deal here. And that OLED display gives you those really deep, rich blacks. And just talking about it doesn't really do it justice. You have to see this thing in person. Even my video is not going to be able to show just how good this display looks in person. It looks phenomenal. All right, so let's talk about some of the stats here. You get a 1 micro HDMI input. You get a 7.2 volt power in and out. You also get a wide color gamut, 5.5 inch display this time instead of a 5 inch from the regular Focus, and 1080p resolution. It's slim and lightweight, optically bonded glass screen, and you get all the special software options that SmallHD is famous for. So let's go ahead and unbox this thing and let me show you what's all inside here. And in typical SmallHD fashion, you're going to see the text inside that says, "You have chosen wisely," which is right up here. Yeah. Kind of silly, I guess, but I like the confidence. SmallHD, I like the confidence. So here it is, folks, the SmallHD Focus in the flesh. You can see the monitor arm is already attached to it. And those little bubbles on the screen, that's just from the screen protector that ships with it, the plastic screen protector. They actually do include a glass screen protector in the box with the SmallHD, and I think it even comes with all models, not just the upgraded models with the extra stuff for the different cameras. You also get an Allen wrench, and that's going to be good for changing out the hot shoe or the cold shoe mount on the monitor arm. You get a getting started guide. So there we go. Nothing too special there. And then beneath, you'll find all of your extras in this box marked extras. And I opted for the Sony MPF W50 kit, which includes, for an extra $100, mind you, an Anton Bauer MPF battery, 4400 milliamp hour, a dummy battery for your camera, and also a battery charger. Now inside the extras box, you see the SmallHD cleaning cloth. You also have right here, this is your glass protector, your tempered glass screen protector. You have some clips for attaching cables to the back of the monitor. And here's all your cables, your HDMI cable, your micro USB cable, and the other HDMI cable with the full-sized female port on the other side. And here is the dummy battery for the Sony camera. Of course, I opted for the Sony package. I do have some beef with this. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And here's the other box with additional stuff inside related to charging and whatnot. All right, so you have the battery charger, power plug, I guess you could say. So this is the power plug that connects to the charger, which is right here, Anton Bauer labeled. And you have the MPF battery here, 4400 milliamp hour battery. So not the largest, but plenty of power to power both your camera and the SmallHD Focus. Now, speaking of the Focus, here you go. You have that screen protector on front, and that's just the one that ships with it. Like I said, SmallHD does include another screen protector for you. Now here is the rear of the Focus OLED. You have the ports on the back. You have the spot for your battery, of course. You have this little button on the back that you depress it to eject the battery or to allow you to eject the battery. As you're going to see, there are lots of Q20 mounts on the SmallHD Focus OLED. There's plenty of mounting options here. There's one on this side. On the other side, there's the power button, so you don't get one there. Next to the power button, you have your open port area for all your port connections, your I/O. On the bottom, you have another Q20 mount, or actually, this is the top of the device. And then on the bottom of the device, you have another Q20 mount. So lots of mounting options. Of course, you have your 3.5 millimeter headphone port. And you also have an SD card slot. That SD card slot is handy to load LUTs or to load new firmware or to save images to if you want to snap images directly from the monitor. And then you have your I/O input and output, and that includes your USB, your micro HDMI input. And also you have your 7.2 volt power in and out. So this can go directly to that dummy battery, and you can power your camera directly from the SmallHD Focus OLED. So here it is compared to my iPhone 10. You can see how it compares from a thickness standpoint and from a wideness standpoint. Not much wider than the iPhone 10, as you can see here. So let's talk about the monitor arm, because this is the best supporting actor or actress for the small HD focus. This allows it to rotate easily. So you have the cold shoe mount that attaches to your camera's hot shoe, and then you have this little portion right here that attaches to the monitor itself, and you can see those little holes to lock it into place where the indentions go. You just screw it in to the side of the SmallHD focus monitor, and because you may be using your camera's hot shoe, they included an extra cold shoe mount just in case you needed to mount anything else like a microphone or whatever the case may be. And that Allen wrench that they include allows you to remove the cold shoe if you want to do so. If you don't plan on using it, you can remove it. Now this friction knob or friction screw or whatever you want to call it is what keeps the SmallHD locked into place, prevents it from rotating or allows it to rotate when you release the friction. So basically, let me show you here. So this is the little part that turns, and based on friction, you can restrict turning like that. So you can see it's not turning now. When I remove the friction, it will turn. So there's also this right here. This is the Anton Bauer labeled charger for your Sony MPF battery that they include. Now, chances are you probably already have a whole bunch of these batteries and probably have chargers as well laying around your studio or office or whatever the case may be. So I don't know, it's kind of debatable as to whether you should opt for the upgraded package that includes these things, because most likely you already have them laying around and you probably have plenty of them. But it's still nice to be able to go right out of the box. You can see I have plenty of these batteries here. This is a much larger one though, almost double the size and double the capacity. However, the larger one doesn't allow the monitor to fully rotate. So you will need a smaller size battery depending on your mounting situation. I know on my A7 III, it does not fully rotate with that larger battery. So you saw the cleaning cloth, you see the ultra clear, what is this thing? This is the tempered glass protector there. And that's easy to install. I actually installed that later on. I'm not going to show that on video. Now here is the dummy battery. We'll talk about this a little bit more in a second, but the downside of this is that this battery only works with older Sony cameras like the A7 II or the A7R II or the A7S II. Sony recently, with their latest cameras, the A7R III, the A7 III, switched to larger capacity Z series batteries, which means the dummy battery doesn't work with the A7 III or any camera that uses those new batteries. Now these little cable clips attach to the little ridges on the back of your SmallHD focus to organize your cables, and here are the cables. So you have inside a, let's see, this first one is an HDMI female to micro HDMI, then you have a USB, and then you have a micro HDMI to micro HDMI. So again, here is the getting started guide, a little bit more up close here. Not a lot there, pretty self-explanatory how to get this thing set up. So here we go, folks, the SmallHD focus. Let's go ahead and mount the monitor arm. Super simple, super easy. So now let's reduce the friction, and now you can see it rotates just like this. And that's super handy. So if you're running selfie mode, if you're shooting selfies or whatever the case may be, you're vlogging, you can use that SmallHD focus to rotate so you can see yourself, which is handy for vlogging, especially with the Sony cameras that don't have fully articulating screens. And here's what I was talking about earlier. This is the dummy battery for the old style Sony cameras with the old battery. Obviously does not fit with the new Z series batteries that Sony is using now, the larger capacity batteries. So SmallHD does say they will be providing a dummy kit for the A7 III, A7R III, etc. in the future, but there's still no word as to when that will be available. So that's a definite bummer for me, because I was looking forward to that so much, because Sony doesn't include a charger inside the box with the A7 III. So I was going to say, hey, I'll just use this to fully charge or to power my camera. But now I can't do that because there's no dummy battery for the A7 III. But despite my disappointments with that, I have to say, man, after hooking this up, I am just amazed by the image fidelity of the OLED display and the feature set with the touch-based OS. Because this is my first time using a SmallHD touch-based monitor. My previous one was a 501, I believe. But now see, you can easily tap and zoom in, tap and zoom out. You can pan around the screen just by touch. And there's just so many features to be had in typical SmallHD fashion. And I've used several popular monitors, and to me, SmallHD does the best as far as on-screen image assistance with tools and things that you can easily add to individual screens and to customize those tools to such a high degree. It's just crazy. So for instance, with the rule of thirds, I can change the color of the crosshatch, I can change the opacity, I can change how much, and I can customize each of these individual tools and turn them on or off with just a tap like that. So you see the audio meters, you can go in there, you can customize how those look, their position on screen, focus assist, which is basically focus peaking. You can go in there, change the color like this. You can change all sorts of properties related to focus assist. And like I said, you can easily turn these things on or off with just a tap. That's what makes it so powerful, so easy to use. So let's go in and add another tool. This time we're going to add a waveform. So let's go down to the scopes and choose waveform. And now it's displayed on screen, but of course you can go in, you can turn it on or off. Go in and customize it though, and you can change the way it looks, its position, opacity, whatever. You can change the type of waveform, so you can choose from Luma, RGB, or Parade. You really see how deep this thing can be. And you can see all the options there. You can just scroll and scroll until you find and customize it to your liking. So you see additional options, focus, overlay, there's even scaling options here. And I think we're good. But say you have this set up just how you want it, and you don't want to mess it up, but you want a different setup. What to do then? Well, let me show you. All you need to do is swipe down like this, and now you can access a new page. But before that, you can even rename your current page to whatever you want it to be. But now you can add a new page, just simply tap new page, and you start from scratch with a blank template that you can go in and add tools to, just like we did before. And now you have two separate pages for two different sets of tools. So you can see how this could be extremely handy for shooting video in all different types of scenarios. Say you have a certain shot, now you can swipe between those different pages and have the different tool setups for each individual page. That is awesome. And of course you could swipe over again to access all of your monitor settings if you want to do that. So you can change things like brightness. Speaking of which, 350 nits, still surprisingly bright. And I actually took this out into the sun and was able to view. Here's another thing though that I really like about the settings, image rotate. So this thing will automatically rotate and even mirror based on the rotation of your device. So basically there's an accelerometer inside the SmallHD that when you rotate it to selfie view, it's going to automatically rotate the image and mirror your image to make it super easy to film yourself while in front of the camera. And again, there are so many other options, image capture, so you can capture directly to it, that SD card slot that I showed you earlier. Just a plethora of options. Of course, you can go in here and upgrade your firmware if you want to do that. So now let me show you the rotation. So we're going to just simply rotate the device. Let me just show you how the accelerometer kicks in. So it kicks in after a second. You see that battery, plenty of clearance. But now notice how it rotates and flips just like that, right there on the fly. So you don't have to press any buttons or anything when you're in selfie mode. And speaking of such, here's my setup with the A7 III. Of course, this camera does not have a fully articulating screen, so this monitor comes very much in handy when in front of the camera and you're the sole cameraman, as you can see there. So it makes a great option for vloggers. Now, what about in bright conditions? Because obviously 350 nits, you don't really associate that with being able to view in bright conditions. It's less brightness than the regular SmallHD focus, but to be honest, I was kind of shocked that it performed so well in bright conditions. Now, obviously, if the sunlight's directly on your screen, there will be some reflection there and it's going to be hard to see. And I think that's just because the screen is sort of reflective, especially if you have a screen protector on there. But I thought you could see it pretty good in bright conditions, overcast conditions. I tested it in both, and I was fairly satisfied with the performance of the OLED display in those bright conditions. And of course, the OLED display is just so much more nice to look at for contrast and things like that than a typical display. So unless you're in the sun constantly, I think it's a pretty good trade-off. Okay, so now some complaints. The dummy battery situation is super disappointing to me. I mean, the A7R III has been out for a while now, and yet SmallHD doesn't have dummy batteries ready to go. That's a bummer to me, but I probably should have done a little bit more research on that myself, and I would have realized that those dummy batteries did not fit my new camera. The next complaint is with the positioning of the micro HDMI cable. I understand why they did it this way, but it seems like they could have came up with a better solution because it's almost impossible to remove with just your fingers. I actually had to use a pair of pliers to get it out. And my last complaint is that there is no side-to-side rotation, so you can only rotate this thing front to back. So if you have a Sony camera, you're still at a slight disadvantage because there is no fully articulating screen. Of course, with all those extra 1/4-20 mounts, you could always choose a different mounting option, but that's largely up to you. So ladies and gentlemen, this has been a look at the SmallHD Focus OLED. It features an amazing display, full HD with super high contrast and those deep dark blacks that make the image pop. And Swipe OS provides the deepest and most intuitive setup that I've seen for monitoring your footage. If you need a super bright monitor, this probably won't be the way to go, but I think some people may be surprised by just how well it performs. Let me know down below in the comment section your thoughts. This is Jeff with 9to5 Toys.